All right. Um, I was introduced as Dixie Ross, and they had my name on the slide, but really, I've learned a long time ago that people really shouldn't be listening to me. I think that we're better off. I think that we're better off listening to students on a lot of these issues. And so I just want to give just a very quick history and a little bit of information about the students, the school that these students are coming from. And so Taylor, I'm not sure what we've got on the next slide. So I really think that, it's important to listen. Like that's the bottom line. And so this is our chance tonight to listen to students who have some really great experiences, sometimes some not so great experiences that I think are instructive for us. And so I definitely think that, you're going to learn a lot from hearing what they have to say. So we're going to tell you a little bit about, our background and where we're coming from. And so back in the early 2000s, I was brought to this particular high school for the particular purpose of building a strong and diverse AP program. And we had a small grant that was helping to provide funding for teacher training and just, some different things. And so we started off and we saw some really good increases in participation. But then I'm embarrassed to admit that, it was an English teacher looking at the data who said, okay, we're not hitting everybody. We're not getting everybody in there. And so our basic goal, which is a very reasonable goal, is that we wanted the demographics of our AP program in terms of participation and performance to reflect the demographics of our school. That was our goal. And we were definitely seeing improvements, but we still had a lot of folks that were missing. And so Amy and I, two middle-class white women, really didn't have the ability to figure out why it was that some students weren't showing up in the classes. We had open enrollment, we were advertising, and yet the students were not coming. And so we convened a focus group of students, and we had sort of an equal representation of students who were taking AP classes and other students of equal, ability in terms of test scores, grades, everything else that were not choosing to take AP classes. And basically, at a lunch meeting said, what's going on? And, they let us know. And one of the things that I love about teenagers is that they're very honest, much more so than adults. And I think that, that I remember after that focus group, just feeling as though I'd been beaten with a 2x4 for a couple of hours. Because we felt as though we were doing a lot, but at that focus group, we learned the gap between what we were doing and what we needed to be doing was still really huge. And so we didn't have a lot of good ideas. We had already done everything we could think of. And so we, asked the kids some of the things that we should try to do. And one of the things that came out of that focus group was an AP ambassadors group. And some of the students that are on the panel tonight are AP ambassadors, though some of them might be stuck in the weight room right now because, they didn't get in early enough. So I'm hoping that they'll still have a way that they can get in and be a part of this panel. So we formed an AP ambassadors group, and we asked the students to help us work on diversifying our AP program and, just providing that real honest voice of what needed to be happening. And then we also got busy enlisting other allies. We had teachers that had some strong buy-in, but we heard from the students that some of the counselors, though they said to us that they were working hard to get students in the class, when we heard from students, the students were telling us that they weren't getting the encouragement that we thought they were. And so we addressed that. We figured out ways to address that. We reached out to parents, we reached out to peers, we reached out to siblings sometimes. We really worked hard to form partnerships with our feeder middle schools and get our high school students down there to speak very early and often to kids at the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade levels to try to encourage them to take AP classes. Okay, Taylor? And so just to let you know, these are our school demographics. Now, they have changed over time. These are our recent demographics. Our school is becoming, more and more diverse in terms of ethnicity. And we've always been very working class, basically, is how I would describe our SES. About half of the kids officially qualify for the free and reduced lunch program, but then there's a whole nother group of kids that are just right above that free and reduced level. And often they stay above the level because the parents are working 2 and 3 jobs. And so I would describe our population as very working class. And so here's our slide showing what our school demographics look like. And I tried to pull slides from a couple of different years because the use of the fee waivers varies quite a bit from year to year. And we're not really sure what are all the factors that impact that. Sometimes, you know, some of our kids, though they can take advantage of fee waivers, they choose not to. They seem to think that there's limited money there, and they say, well, some other kid needs it more than I do. And so they don't always take advantage of the fee waivers like they should. Our school also provides extra funding beyond the fee waivers that are provided by the College Board in the state of Texas. Okay, let's see. So let me see what else is our next slide. And I'm just trying to give you a little bit of background about what our school is like. And, you know, I think that our initial goal, of course, was not just to have kids be in those classes, but to really help them feel as though they belong there, that they were an important part of our program. And so this definition of inclusion that one of the English teachers shared with me, I think is really important. It's not just being there and being in the room, but also feeling, you know, authentic and empowered participation, and really a true sense of belonging, that you're not just there as a token person to represent a viewpoint, but you're there to be fully engaged in the class and to be able to influence the direction of the class. Okay. Taylor. Okay. So as we go through our little presentation tonight, then these are 3 of the things that we hope that you're going to take away from it. 3 of the things that we know are important in terms of building a diverse program: affirming students' identities. Do they see themselves reflected in the curriculum, in the peers in the classroom, and in their teachers? How do we go about building community within our AP classes? And then also, what opportunities for leadership do we provide to students? And some of these students have turned out to be fantastic leaders in a lot of areas. Taylor, who I'm about to turn this over to, who will actually be running the panel, she has gone to the state legislature and testified on behalf of AP-friendly legislation that's been passed in the state of Texas. So providing funding for teacher training, for example. So teachers that attend summer institutes, their schools can be reimbursed. Money for those fee waivers that I've mentioned that are really, really important in low-income communities. And then also AP credit policies in the state of Texas. Every public college and university must award credit for 3s, 4s, and 5s. And that's legislation that Taylor Johnson helped get passed. And so at the end of this presentation, we want to give you some resources, some things that you might want to look at. And so if you are interested in our program, we're going to share a description about some of the things that we did early on. The College Board has this Spotlight on Success. The legislative advocacy, if you want to do that in your state, there is an AP Advocates program that I encourage everybody to join. And it doesn't take a lot of time. It might be just sending 1 email, writing 1 letter, making 1 phone call. And then, of course, we really want to promote the use of the College Board Opportunity Scholarships, because there's the scholarship aspect of it, but then there's also the fact that it leads students through the college admissions process. And a lot of our students need that help because they're first-generation college students and they don't necessarily have help from home. And our counselors are sometimes very overworked and they can't do as much as they would like to, just because they've been tasked with so many other things. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Taylor, who's really the person who should be in charge of everything, because I'm not good at stuff. And I realized that very early on, that I do have a few very small skills. But really, I learned that students are the people that should be the power behind this thing. And we've got some great students here tonight that you're going to be meeting. But the first person I'd like to introduce is Taylor Johnson, graduate of Pflugerville High School and currently a graduate student in Virginia. So she's going to introduce herself and then she's going to take it away, and I will be in the background until the very end. So.
Thank you, Ms. Ross. So as she mentioned, my name is Taylor Johnson. I am a graduate of Pflugerville High School. I graduated in 2015. I'm a graduate of the University of Texas at Austin. I graduated with my degree in biomedical engineering in 2020, and now I'm pursuing a PhD in engineering education at Virginia Tech. So that's where I am right now. I'm in Virginia, and I'm glad to be here with the students, helping them along and like guiding the conversation. Honestly, their stories are remarkable. I'm excited to see what they have to share with us. and glad to see everyone here in this session tonight. So I'm going to go ahead and spotlight the students just so they have the attention on them and they don't have to worry about the, the crowd. So let's see. Let's see if I can get, there we go. Excellent. So hopefully I have everyone, if not, hopefully Nicole can help me out with spotlighting the rest of our panelists. But okay, so to get started, we'll go ahead and have the panelists introduce themselves, just say your name, and I guess where you are right now. So if you're a graduate of Pflugerville High School, where are you now? And then if you're not, just say your grade level, and then what class you're intending to take in the fall.
Before we do that, Taylor, I might back out so that we can let Annie in. So Annie Hinojosa is one of our other panelists, and because of the limit, so I'm gonna back out and just let the kids do this, because the best thing that you can do is trust your students. Like, I think that's really the best thing. So I will leave, and then that way I think we should be able to let Annie and any of the other panelists that are waiting to come in. So.
Take it away, Mateo.
All right, cool. Hello, my name is Mateo Gonzalez. I am a rising senior at Pflugerville High School, and this year I will be taking AP English Literature.
I can go and go next. Hello, everyone. My name is Brown Arnellis. I am a rising senior at Pflugerville High School, and this year I'll be taking AP Literature as well.
All right, I'll go next. Hi, everyone. I'm Roderick Alcantara. I'm an upcoming senior. I moved to Pflugerville right as COVID-19 happened because my mother lost her job. And so I'm kind of new in the area. So, but hello, everyone. I'll be taking AP Lit next year.
Hello, my name is Faber and Officer. I am a rising senior for Pflugerville High School, and I'll be taking AP Literature next year.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me. My name is Chukwuma Osuji. I graduated Pflugerville High School in 2013. I got my Bachelor's of Political Science from the University of Houston, serving the Peace Corps Thailand, and COVID kind of cut my service short. So I'm currently a high school pre-calc teacher, as well as in grad school at Sam Houston for criminal justice.
Excellent. So I'm perusing the names. I don't see any more of the panelists, but hopefully they get let in some shape, form, or fashion. But we'll go ahead and start off. So I have a few questions, of course, planned, but as we get questions in the chat, we'll save those for the end and hopefully address those. So my first question is, do any of the students, do anyone on the panel have an example of literature where you saw parts of your identity reflected? And then do you have any examples of that?
Okay, I don't know if Annie's in here, but I would be willing to start it. Okay. So for me, an example of literature that I saw my identity reflected was a book that I read in freshman year in Vegas called Always Running by Luis J. Rodriguez. It was a book that kind of made me understand the perspective of that we go home after every single day of school and we enter a whole nother world that is the home life. I hope everyone goes home to, a safe shelter and has like food to eat, but not everyone has that same reality. And so that book made me kind of understand that when I enter the classroom, that the adversities that I have to face and the worries have to be left at home. And I have to, when I'm in class, I have to be just a student ready to learn. And I think that it was a very eye-opening moment for me because students all have bad days when those two worlds clash, as well as teachers.
I can definitely.
Always Running by Luis J. Rodriguez.
Awesome, Roderick. So I would also like to answer this question. A book that I've read that I've seen parts of my identity reflected in was Boy Erased by Gerard Conley. The book basically circles around this boy who is being raised in a very religious family who, when he comes out, send him to a conversion therapy center. And it's a very hard book to read, especially as a member of the LGBTQIA plus community myself, because it really focuses on the suppression of our identity that our community has had to face for decades now. Well, since the beginning of time, I'm sure. And when I read that book, I remember drawing parallels between the suppression of conversion therapy and the suppression that I experience every day at my high school. And Pflugerville High School is an amazing campus, so diverse, so accepting generally, that the things I'm talking about are more microaggressions, things that, you know, like, oh, a term that's used quite frequently that I do not care for is "that's gay" when someone doesn't like something. Just hearing those kinds of things every day, it really gets to you, and you start to suppress your identity. You start thinking, well, maybe I shouldn't wear this shirt. It's too gay. Maybe I shouldn't wear these pants. It's too gay. I shouldn't be wearing jewelry. I shouldn't be doing my hair. You start to sort of tear away at your personality so you can fit into this box that I guess society wants you to fit into, or that you think society wants you to fit into, because of the people that are committing these microaggressions against you. And so I think that reading that book was very important for me personally, because at the end you hear that the author, who the book is about, he made it through and he is living a happy life today. And I found that really inspiring to me, because it basically showed me that I can persevere through hard times when I'm questioning my personality and who I am, and that I can get through high school.
Yeah, so thank you, Roderick and Mateo, for sharing your perspective. So like you said, Mateo, like the microaggressions, those things can also like impact you inside the classroom. So that leads into my second question as to if any of you can describe an experience with the lack of or presence of representation in English courses. So whether it's the physical representation, like you don't see people, your peers in your classroom looking like you, or within the material itself. So Brianna, do you want to go ahead and start that one off?
Yeah, for sure. So for material, at least, I'm someone who likes to be known for like standing up for women. And at times you kind of focus on how many books don't really surround women at all. But those who do, sometimes, like my brother, he's a very heavy influence in my life. And not that he's not powerful to women or whatever, but he didn't exactly correlate me and steer me into a way to push me to books that are about powerful women. And instead, I began to focus on books about war, which is great and all, until you realize that you don't have any female representation in there, which kind of sucks. So I think that was one of the points I wanted to make. And a lot of the literature that we read in school, and particularly in school, in the class with everyone else, surrounded male characters, trade whenever I knew that that's not who I am, that's not what I want to be. But they still were powerful books, except the fact that they didn't have a lot of power to me at all. I didn't feel myself in there. So that's one thing I wanted to point out.
I would like to add more of that, more specifically to people of color. Um, every time I go to class, I rarely see people of the same color, especially females, because most of them are not really encouraged to follow this path because it's either they never heard about an AP class for English, or they feel like discouraged because they think it's for geniuses. And when you come into the class, you kind of feel that suppression between people who are smarter than you, and you're just there, and you're like, am I supposed to be in this class? When is it time for me to leave? Can I drop? And stuff like that. And then you find students struggling, and we never really have that person to help us to understand that we could be like those people. It's just that they had a little more time, and you just need that same amount of time. Another thing would be the lack of representation of students who are new to the school. I came in sophomore year and I didn't know anything about AP classes because I moved from a different school. And so joining AP classes during my junior year, I kind of felt like I missed out because then I had this huge gap between people who had taken it from their freshman year to me who just started it. And I didn't really feel connected with my class until, later in the semester when teachers were like, we need to get everyone together. And that's how I feel it should have gone.
I
And,
think also to go off what like Favor and what Brianna said was that in my case with AP Lang, the only time that like the only part of my identity that was challenged was being an American citizen. Like for example, we had to write 3 essays within 2 hours for AP Lang. On the rhetorical analysis essay was probably about some political figure and their speech. So by default, we are forced to like connect our worlds of A push and the American news in the moment and put those two together when it doesn't really represent any minorities, it doesn't really represent any women and any of those parties because the only time we are ever able to express our identities is in the argumentative essay, which it's not a problem to teachers, but you guys can't teach us to argue in the perspective of a female on a male, a white male talking about a speech for his uncle, dead uncle, or fellow political member.
and you know, the overarching theme here is the lack of representation, and that evinces itself in, not just, like Roger was saying, in politics, but also specifically at the school. And we talk about why there aren't, minorities in there, is because we don't really have any attachments to what is either being taught or who is writing those literature. I remember taking AP classes, it was heavy on Shakespeare. That is literally all I can remember. That's literally all I can remember. We talk about high school, Shakespeare. And I remember I mentioned earlier that I'm a pre-cal, high school pre-cal teacher currently. And the room right opposite mine is AP English. And they read Chinua Achebe, Things Fall Apart. They read James Baldwin. They read a variety of things, voices of color that matter. And it dawned on me that I lost my identity as a Black male in certain AP classes because there was no representation. And I was learning, of course, not because I had passion for the topic, but because I was trying to get the credit for college, trying to make college cheap. So it's like reading about Shakespeare, Romeo and Juliet, it's all fun and stuff, but it does not relate to me as a Black man. I want something a little bit more deeper, something I can invest myself a little bit more in. It wasn't until college where I took African American studies, and then I began to find my identity as a Black male, a little bit more so than I did in high school. And not to get political, but politics has a role it plays in education, and there are talks on restrictions and all these things that play those roles in there. So it is challenging, especially for minorities, to find their identity when politics is taking such a strong position in what is being taught in school.
Yeah, so on that same topic, as far as like taking a stance and figuring out where the world plays into your own classrooms, I had a question for the students, like given the current and recent state of affairs in the world. So I graduated in 2015. You were saying you graduated in 2013, and they're in a new, I guess, wave within their classrooms. But did you address any of the topics, within the current affairs through your English courses? And if so, how are they incorporated? Roderick,
I would love to. For me, I think that in AP Lang, we got only as far as the Black Lives Matter movement because it was a part of Rosa Parks and Barack Obama's speech about her, which is really like a big step forward. But as far as that, like we were only required to write about an argument for the necessity of handwriting, which to me is extraneous about talking about the society that we live in today. Um, it just makes me think as a kid, like I want to be a part of my community. And as kids, we are growing up curious and wanting to know more things. And even as a teenager, I still have that curiosity to want to be part of my community through community service, and I want to know what's on the news. And soon we're going to be able to vote. So I want to know what I'm voting for and how I can take part of my society.
To continue on to that, I like to speak and then I like to speak on behalf of someone else who couldn't really make it today. But on that front, I was a student who participated heavily in our Zoom discussions, which meant like I didn't turn my camera on because I'm not that person, but I did, open my voice chat and try to communicate. And with that, I created a good bond with my teacher. And as one of the times I was reviewing one of my essays, she was like, you gave her a great example, except it was only about you. You need to understand that other things are happening in the world. And then she told me to pinpoint and start reading news articles about what's happening, the current life events. And I felt like that was a great thing to kind of put on to me, because I didn't realize just how many issues continually were brought about through either politics, through moral ideas, through political things that you think someone should be doing or someone shouldn't be doing. So I think that was a great part on my teacher, at least, that I can understand that that wasn't a great representation for everyone going through what I did. But my friend Lamisa, who couldn't make it here today, was like to say that, yes, we did address real world events a few times, which as someone who likes to discuss those topics, I was happy about. At the beginning of the year, we worked with an election and the pandemic a lot. I remember that when it was the time for the presidential election, we had to read the candidate speeches and tweets and answer some questions or write about the purpose, audience, and speaker. My teacher would also use the pandemic in her examples for an assignment or topic. Throughout the year, I also remember that when working on essays or other activities, my teacher would encourage students to use specific real-world examples, and we would even go through 1 or 2 examples together as a class, which correlates with my statement, which is to say, when we did talk about real-world topics, they were all political, which I kind of felt was a bit closing in on something.
Right, and I would like to say I experienced the same thing in my AP English language and composition class. We discussed the very contentious presidential election of last year, very heavily actually. We used political speeches, public addresses, controversial tweets, all for the subject of our practice rhetorical analysis essays. And I think that there was a missed opportunity to discuss what happened a few months prior in the summer of 2020 with the Black Lives Matter movement and all of the social upheaval, if you will. We all witnessed that as a nation together. We saw the change that was happening. We saw the fight for change that needed to be fought. And I was fully expecting to enter my English class where we wrote essays all the time to discuss this. And unfortunately, we didn't discuss it as much as I would have liked or preferred. So I totally agree. We talked a lot about the presidential election of 2020, which was in and of itself problematic. And we didn't talk enough about social goings on.
I'd like to add a little on Mateo's words. Like he said, we did a lot of politics. Basically, I think my AP Lang class was all about white old men and talking about America. That was it. And how to make America great again. But the way they were making America great again wasn't for the citizen. It was for the people who had the money to push their campaign upwards and stuff. Like half of the essays I wrote was either about Kennedy or Obama saying something or about Trump. That's all the essays I can remember so far. I don't think I wrote any essays except for like when we had to do creative writing, which was like once in a semester or so, where we have to talk about other things that were happening in society. I never wrote an essay about Black Lives Matter or anything. I just remember writing all about politics. And I feel like that should change going on from here.
Okay, so yeah, on that same topic, in that same vein, is whose voices are missing from the works that you read in AP Lit or AP courses? And also, what perspectives would you like to see in your own, writings or assignments that you want to, put forth in the next year or in your experience?
I can definitely take this one. So a voice that I feel has been missing from the works that I've read in all of my AP English courses is the voice of the LGBTQIA plus community. I believe that this can actually be dangerous. I'm a numbers person, like Ms. Ross, so I pulled a statistic here. According to the Trevor Project, an estimated 2,647,755 students ages 13 to 18 nationwide identify as LGBTQIA plus each year. Approximately 45% of these students seriously contemplate suicide. 45%. That is over 1.9 million students. Perhaps if just one student can see themselves represented in a positive light through literature, it can help boost their self-esteem and maybe save their life. I have gathered a list of books that I feel would be perfect for introducing LGBTQ literature in your classrooms. If you are interested in this list, please visit the event website after this is over. It's not an extensive list by any means, but it is a start. And if it's okay with y'all, I'd actually like to read it out loud right now. So get your pencils ready. So my first book is The Color Purple by Alice Walker, Openly Straight by Bill Konigsberg, And She Was by Jessica Verdi, Vanilla by Billy Morell, Go Tell It on the Mountain by James Baldwin, Am I Blue? Coming Out from the Silence by Marion Dane Bauer et al. Thank you.
Hard to follow up, but does anyone else want to comment on which voices are left out of the literature or works that you read in your courses?
I think for me, like, I think Asian identities are being like washed away from the scene of AP English, because the only time I've ever seen Asian lives being represented was in um, a book about the Vietnam War where we're seen as the enemy. And it kind of made me think about this whitewash perspective of, for all of a sudden, like, Asians are the people who spread the virus, and Asians, and thinking that we are not, violence towards us is not going to make us end the virus, and we are not entirely responsible for the virus, you know? So I think a little bit more of Asian perspectives and Asian upbringing, more works about that could be vital to ending or maybe hopefully lessening Asian hate, you know?
To add on to that, I would like to hear some voices from Hispanic people. Most of the ones I've read all talk about immigration. And I want to say that we're more than coming into the United States, because we're not all about the United States. And they always show how difficult it is to be an immigrant. And that's so true. And we also need to talk about how sometimes I feel my culture kind of has gone away from me, because not that I've been surrounded by individuals who have different cultures, but I just don't know who I really am. And I feel like I would love to have a piece of literature that kind of reflects that and helps me keep my culture without feeling not embarrassed, but as if I need to be someone else. So I would love to have that in literature.
Yeah, I would also go over what Brianna said. Being an immigrant myself, I also feel like sometimes my culture is being washed away. I feel like, well, not really washed away, I mean, separated in a sense, because we do have Black schools where they do Black culture and stuff. So every day I get this ad going, come to this Black cultured school. And it's like, what about this school? Why aren't they doing the same thing? Why can't we be together and stuff like that? So I feel like they should, instead of trying to separate us in a way just to show that we're like put the spotlight on Black people, they should also try to also put us together, because it's America. We're not divided, we're still one. And I feel like I'm always divided in terms of culture in my AP class, and I'm not comfortable with that, because then I can't really share the good experiences of my culture, because I feel other students are not going to be able to understand me in a sense.
And I would say the thing about, especially when programs are being diverse, is it's often done in the wrong way. We pick the most centralizing aspect of things. When we're reading about, let's say, Black author, who do we go to? Frederick Douglass, heavy on slavery, right? So there are more accomplished Black authors out there that can also be addressed. And I think Roderick, Mateo, Brianna, and Favor all touched up on that, you know, there are, you know, we all have our backgrounds, identities, but what has been highlighted has often been the maybe like a footnote of negativity that they're using as a definition for the entire grouping. So I think that the power really resides on the teachers as well, and be more cautious about what topics you hit on and how frequently. Yes, we should talk about slavery, we should talk about other oppressions that's happened, but that should not be the only portion or the only topic in which is being discussed in class.
Yeah, I think you bring up a good point about like where the stories of these like people of color or marginalized people start in these literature classes. It could be slavery or immigration, and there's way more before that that influences the way that they interact within America. So yeah, and so I mean we touched on this a bit, but if anyone else had any more recommendations. What are some works by people of color or authors with other marginalized identities that you have read in or outside the classroom, and why were those works important to you?
I only have one, and it's pretty basic that everyone kind of knows about it, but this is more for my woman part of me, I guess you could say, that I believe in Truly I Am Little Woman by Louisa May Alcott. That one kind of also resonates with the fact that I know it's talking about a white woman, but as a Hispanic female, it's difficult sometimes to understand that you are your own person. You don't need to be cleaning up your family members, especially your father's plates, your brother's plates, cleaning the dishes, doing the laundry, because you're more than a girl. You're more than their household person. I feel like that really reflected themselves in The World Woman, where she didn't want to get married, and she didn't, although the movie completely just disregards that point. And that really helps me kind of remember that I am able to do what I want. I am not someone's household wife. I am a woman. I am independent. And I feel like that book really helped me with that.
My book is Things Fall Apart by Chinua Achebe. He is Igbo. I am Igbo as well. So reading his work really, it meant a lot. He was the first Igbo author that I read, which is my junior year at Pflugerville High School. And the reason why I love this because it is authentic. It's about the pre-colonial life before the British came to Nigeria, and it talks about it's about the fight in preserving your culture in the midst of adversity, and I identify with that because that's what I go through now. I'm first generation Nigerian here, and it's like, yes, okay, I was born in New York, but both of my parents are very traditional Nigerians, and I'm often caught in this push and pull situation of, okay, having to identify with who I am as a Nigerian, but also who I am and what it means to be an American, right? But yes, what it means to be an American, there's not really a thing, right? Because America is a mix of all cultures, but America has its identity, right? Which in some ways is different from my traditional background. So being able to read that allowed me to be more honest with myself, be more in touch, and realizing that there is a world out there, and I should go and experience that. So it was a catapulting moment for me going into my senior year that I should create my own identity for myself, and I shouldn't have to feel like I need to identify with just one side or just the other. That it is okay to have both.
I would like to add on to what he said. One of my books would be To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee. She's an American white novelist. Um, well, what that really identified with me in her book was the fact that it wasn't just about a black person dying because they touched a white person. Because that's all the books I've read so far to that book. It was about a white person fighting for a black person. And I was really touched by a young, and when she wrote it, she was pretty young at this age. And so the background of this book was what inspired me to, look at other ways to also bring my culture to light and I try to connect with other cultures and tell them about myself without being afraid of showing them who I really am, because that's the way I feel America is. If you say something, you're always going to be criticized. And sometimes people take criticism too much to the heart, I would say. And so that book kind of taught me that she didn't take that criticism talking about Black people at that age and at that time where she'd have been totally shunned away. And so I feel like I identify with her in expressing herself, and that has helped me to also be able to express myself to other people.
I have three books. Boy Erased, as I already mentioned, by Gerard Conley. Tomorrow Will Be Different by Sarah McBride, and Some Girls Do by Jennifer Dugan. These books were extremely impactful to me because of the time in which I encountered them. High school is a tumultuous time for anyone. The struggle to find self-expression and your place amongst your peers plagues all high school students. Now imagine facing all of these struggles while simultaneously coming to terms with being gay or being transgender, coming to terms with being a part of a community that is so marginalized and so polarizing that we are often ignored in an academic setting. I've been able to push through this struggle in part because of the LGBTQ literature I have read. Seeing yourself reflected in a book reassures you that you are not alone. There are others out there who have similar stories. To me, it is incredibly important to see the representation of many different and diverse communities in literature.
Okay, and then the second to last question I have is, in what ways would you as a student like to play a more active role in your English education? And how can other instructors or English educators incorporate this into their classrooms?
I can go and start off on Lamisa's behalf once more. She said, I'd be totally fine with helping my peers or peer reviewing essays and giving feedback. This past year, many of my friends asked me to do that, and I liked helping them. Since I've taken many classes that revolve around writing and developing essays, I wouldn't mind using that experience to help my peers and share with them what I've learned over the past few years. In fact, I feel like matching up students with experienced students that need assistance could help build a more inclusive, friendly community inside the classroom. I would also like to contribute more teachers to ask questions so that maybe I can share some of my own experiences. And I would love to hear the answers of other students inspired by their experiences as well. And on my point of view for that question about to play a more active role in my English, I would say have the students sometimes try to teach a class, and only the students who feel comfortable with it. I myself would feel comfortable, but that's just who I am. Some students would not. But I would love to have students like bring in a book from outside and kind of talk about it, and then have other students correlate with questions, because we all can reach a conclusion. That's no issue at all. But it's something to be able to reach a conclusion together and have to make sure that everyone kind of understands it to the best of their component. Because as much as I love teachers, at times in English, they make it appear as though there's only one right answer, when everyone knows in English, there is so many different interpretations of something. I remember one time arguing with one of my teachers, I was like, there's so many ways you can describe this, and yet you make us say it like this. And that was one of the things that kind of got me mad about English, was that I know I can be right all the time. It's just a matter of proving it to be. So I would love to have discussion with students who also kind of think like that, which I feel like would be great.
And that's what I want to add to that is there's this quote during our we're already back to school. School started 2 weeks ago for us. I know it's like horrible for everybody, but we love it. We're happy to have the kids back in. I know they've had a crazy year last year, but a quote from training 2 weeks ago that I picked up on. A teacher said, we're going to change the notion of you can bring the horse to water, but you can't make the horse drink, to understanding that the horse needs to know that it is deserving of the water. The horse needs to want to drink that water. And that comes from empowering the power of, it comes from empowering the scholars, to know that, hey, you are capable of this. You are capable of greatness. There is representation out there. We will find it together, and giving them those knowledge and those tools. So AP classes are great, yes, but I think by empowering the students, they will take more ownership of it, and it will mean something a little bit more to them. Another quote, I'm very big on quotes. I think it's a nice way to like encapsulate, statements. But it was, your scholars may not remember every single thing you taught, but they'll always remember how you made them feel. And I think, as teachers, if this, I'm going to my second year, but it's something I want to be more cautious about is how I make my students feel in class. Making sure that I am, always a voice of positivity for them and encouragement.
Yeah, I definitely resonate with that. I guess being that we both went through Pflugerville High School and now educators ourselves, I take pride in like what I bring to my students. I know they might not take away what I'm teaching them in class exactly. It may have to come back around one more time, but and some of the lessons that I teach them may have to marinate a little bit before they get it. But I take pride in whatever I can do within my 13 weeks of having them in a semester. But yeah, I mean, closing question, what actions can English teachers take to create a more inclusive educational space for their students? Anyone can take that one.
I can take this one. I think a very important yet simple action English teachers should take is to get to know their students. Talk to them about their struggles, be willing to acknowledge and discuss their interpretations of race, of gender, of sexuality. One of the things I love most about English is the ability to turn basically any topic into an essay or an assignment. You just have to be willing to ask first.
I'm going to jump off, Mateo. Absolutely. I know sometimes I have two personalities. One I think you guys are seeing today, which is very up there, out there, talking a lot. And other ones, I sit back and I let people do their thing and I observe. And with that, I do it because I see what kind of environment I'm in. If I'm in one that's accepting and loving and understanding, here I am. Hello, hi. If I'm not, or if it's not, I am quiet and I'm back there because I know I don't want to make myself a target for future anger or anything like that. So I think we should be able to have a space that everyone feels safe in, one where you see flags of color, you see posters of talking about mental health issues, talking about who you are, such as that, or having a list. I would love Mateo's, by the way, like just hanging up on a wall and like different little things because everyone's different. And it's kind of hard to kind of welcome everyone the same way that you welcome individuals, Hispanic, Black, etc. But I would love to see that in a classroom. I knew one teacher, amazing. She had all that things. And I just felt at home. If I cried, I went to her classroom. If someone to die, I went to her. And that's something that you kind of want. And it's something that I felt like I needed to excel in that classroom. And I did.
I think to go off that even more is that like in 8th grade we did NHD, National History Day, and our topic was compromise. And I think that in the classroom it's just a really big salad bowl of different identities, cultures, upbringings, all the above, and we're all just here learning one thing. And I think what Mateo said and what Brianna said is get to know your students. I know teachers like are underpaid, overworked, and teenagers are full of hormones, but we're stuck together for 9 months. And I think it would be better if we could have some kind of compromise and understanding and have someone to impact us and make us feel accomplished by the end of the 9 months. And it doesn't even matter if they passed an exam or not. We want teachers to impact us and change our lives in one that we feel accomplished in.
Um, as for me, I feel like there should be more creative writings. My brother's a writer and he loves telling stories, and I like to share that story with other people. And so I feel like there should be more creative writings where I can talk about my family, talk about myself, talk about people I met and stuff like that, because that's what makes me happy. And if you're keeping your students happy in the class while they're still learning, they will want to be there the more. Like after my first creative writing in AP class, I told my brother, join AP. It's gonna be hard. You can do it for the credit, but just know that there's always gonna be that one assignment where you're gonna write 25 million words and tell your teacher about this epic story you wrote last year. And my brother said, for sure, sign me up. And I signed my brother for AP class and he's gonna be doing it. And I'm like looking at my brother and I'm like, I don't know if it's gonna be the same way I experienced it, but I want it to be the same way I experienced it for you. To have that perfect movement where you're gonna write what you feel and also understand the world you're living in right now.
I yield my time.
Okay, so I know we're coming to the close of the session. And I know some people were posting questions in the chat and they were getting answered gradually by the community that was gathered here. But if anyone has any lingering questions, please come off of, I guess. Well, okay, I see some in the chat, but I guess you're also able to come off of mute to quickly ask your question.
I'll say what that was in the chat. It isn't my question, and you guys did a great job. I hear you. One of the questions is how did the ambassador program work? This person would like to create a similar program at their school. They must be talking about the students, right?
I do believe they're talking about the AP Ambassador program.
Yeah.
Was anyone?
That was
I
my
wasn't myself.
question. That was my question, and somebody posted an article for me. Thank you guys so much.
Oh, of course. All right. Thank
Sorry.
you.
So
You're good.
I was in the AP Ambassador program. It was pretty nice having like the exclusive shirt and just going around championing AP classes. And it just made you feel like, you know, I don't know, it made me feel smart. Did I struggle a little bit in my AP class? Yes, big time. But just being able to have that shirt on and tell people, hey, you know, like Favor said, this might be a hard class, but college is not easy, right? So you might as well get into that rigor right now and prepare yourself to a level where you excel even more. So I'm going out there and just championing the AP program, and people are like, no, take dual credit. I'm like, no, take AP, right? Because you get a shirt as well. So that was that was it. So it was a great program. Came under from Ms. Ross, and yeah, that was what happened. We did have like meetings frequently, but most of the time is just going out there and just, you know, pushing the AP words to your fellow students, because word of mouth is where it's going to go. And that was how I even got drawn into taking AP classes, because my friends were like, hey, take AP classes. Not only will it help your, help your GPA, but would also prepare you in all these things. And I say, hey, look, if my friend can do it, I can do it. And that's kind of how it's kind of started from.
Thank you so much to all of the panelists. I know we want to give them just a round of applause. Thank you so much for taking leadership with this. Taylor, you were a wonderful moderator for it. Roderick, Chukwuma, Brianna, Favor, and Mateo, thank you so much for joining us this evening. And we will be posting the recording with your permission. And so hopefully everybody who is not able to join the meeting tonight will have an opportunity to contemplate your wise words and your wonderful book recommendations. We value and appreciate you so much. Thank you.